Here we are. Welcome to day 4 of Culture Fist Live. So this is a series with the hope of providing a source of ideas and inspiration. We're inviting some of our special guests in the community to share examples of what they've been doing to influence their company culture and develop their well-being. We've had a range of different activities and have more planned. I feel really fortunate about our guest for today. This person, as part of the community, it's really special when you really notice some of the people who really contribute and are so supportive to it, to kind of protect it and nurture it and help it grow. And our guest today is one of the people who stood out to me to have done that. I'm really pleased that she's going to share some of her experience with us. So with that, I'd like to welcome our guest. Hello.
Hi.
Would you like to introduce yourself to the watchers?
Yes, I would love to. Thanks for your kind intro. That was really humbling. Hey everyone, my name is Marie Krebs and I am a one-woman people operations team at Learnably, which is a workplace learning platform. So all about that HR tech. And at Learnably, I strategize, design, drive people processes across the employee life cycle to create the best possible experiences, hopefully. Starting chronologically from before people even necessarily know about the company, so employer value proposition, to hiring, onboarding, and then the internal life cycle, touching on everything learning and development, training, psychological safety, all the way to offboarding and supporting people in their next steps. That's what I do.
And breathe. Yeah, I guess it's understandable as one person in the role in the team. And that's one of the one of the topics that conversations emerge around is, hey, I'm one person in a team looking at people experience, help, trying to find like people who are working on a similar thing. Could you share the story of what led you to working in influencing company culture?
Yeah, so I joined Learnably 2.5 years ago as office and operations manager. So my main responsibilities were rather around logistics and compliance, like GDPR and things like that. And Learnably is a like learning and development platform. So there came a time where, because we were such a young company, someone stood up and said, hey, how about we revamp our own learning and development offering? And that was my manager at the time. So I got involved and it just blew my mind. I was like, what is this kind of project? It's so amazing. And it's, you put your finger in the wheel and then it never stops. And I engaged in more and more people related projects. And yeah, 2 years later, I'm people operations manager.
Congratulations on that. And of all of the aspects related to culture that you work with, which ones are you most interested in?
Definitely psychological safety and development, which I'm not sure can happen without the former anyways. It's quite complex because it's a very foundational layer of how you set up for success in organizational development and for people to own their personal development and to dare engage and to feel safe enough to try and fail and try again or just do the first step, which is often the scariest as well. So yeah, psychological safety and development, I think.
So that sounds like a topic, psychological safety, for like one of these sessions to go deep on some of the things, because I'm not sure. It's probably like culture. There's not one definition for it. There's like different people's interpretation of it. Would that be fair to say?
I think it's there's probably a definition that would like overlay the principles that everyone need in order to be in an environment that fosters psychological safety, but it's for each and everyone to have it echo with their experience in a way that allows them to open up.
Yeah, because I'd want to go deep, for example, on, okay, so if I felt psychologically safe, that means that I could kind of share how I'm feeling.
Mm-hmm.
The safe bit is the thing that I'm keen to learn more about. Maybe, as I say, like to go deeper another time. Like it's safe up to a boundary, because there will be a boundary where if I share like my vulnerability, but then at a point it might be, well, actually, okay, how I am maybe isn't the right fit for the team. So by feeling safe enough to say how I feel, it's actually shown and highlighted that maybe I'm not right for the team, and then I may need to go. And therefore, I might be lacking safety if I expose so much of myself.
I think if you have the opportunity to be vocal enough, then you can identify that there is a discrepancy, and then everyone together collaboratively can make an informed decision as to what the best course of action might be. And if this person is competent, but they're making, they're not necessarily feeling comfortable, maybe it's a matter of reiterating on the existing processes so that the environment of the company is more inclusive if it's not competence related.
My mind's already gone to, yeah, and then so yeah, this is one we'll pick up. Could you offer some like examples of some of the work that you've done related to culture?
Yeah, sure. Well, as I mentioned earlier, the first project that I really got my teeth in was revamping Learnably's own learning and development process, and then looking back at it and understanding what structures I had used myself, what had failed and what had been successful, to reappropriate those and then iterate both on the structures and the methods on other projects. It's a bit meta. I built an employee guide. It's public online. People can go check it out and copy the pages and appropriate them and adapt them to their own companies.
So for those that haven't seen it or don't know it, a guide of what?
Oh, sorry. So it's a guide of the company policies. It's broken down into 4 bigger sections. One is about Learnably. So there's a page about the values, there's a page about the purpose, a page about the team, and so on. Then there's a general page a general section, with pages like, what does it mean that Learnably is a fully distributed company? There's a page about our dress code, which is actually just a bunch of jokes because we don't have a dress code. Then there's everything general, so annual leave and learning leave and benefits and things like that. And there's another section that's only on that development and learning offering that I touched on earlier, because it's been embedded now or revamped 2 years ago. So it's been also elaborated on, and it's grown into a list of I don't know how many, but a handful of propositions that people can decide to engage or not engage with or dabble with and try whatever works for them.
And so we can put a link underneath the video, so if people want to find it, they can. So next, so given the experience, so it feels like you've gained a lot of experience given how much you've worked on in a relatively short time. If someone is looking to influence their company's culture, what advice would you give them?
I would say, don't be afraid to make suggestions. Like really, that's the first thing, is creating dialogue and making suggestions. And then if you're met with a no and you ask why enough times, you'll be able to understand the mechanics and the implications of decision making that touches on the projects you're interested in. And so that's going to be information that's super helpful for the next conversation that you want to enable. And sometimes a conversation's an action in itself, like in the employee guide that I mentioned earlier. There's a page about periods at work, and that is just a conversation trigger because there's an inherited stigma around that topic, and just being vocal about it gives it visibility and enables change. So yeah, just get in there and ask people who know better. Like, no one needs to, you don't need to reinvent the wheel to take things forward. It doesn't need to be pretty. It can be pretty later. Just, yeah, taking action first and asking people who know for advice on where they failed, I think, is very important.
Yeah, I think that's great pieces of advice. And you mentioned the one about the example around like periods at work. I think somebody shared with me the example of Channel 4. It's not the same, but another well-being aspect around Channel 4 have a menopause policy. And I think more and more companies are starting to look at this as well. It's like, it's surprising considering how many people are affected by it. The stages of development of work around that in companies. So that's another one we're going to explore. On the well-being theme, particularly given the context of everything happening at the moment, what sort of things do you do to support, encourage your own well-being?
I'm not doing it right now, but I stand up in meetings during the day. This counts as evening time. What else? I never skip lunch. I'll postpone it sometimes, but I will never skip it.
Postpone until dinner time?
No. Till like 2 o'clock or like 2:30, which is quite late for me because I normally have lunch around like 12:30. But that's a nice segue into using flexible hours. So I'm never gonna have a meeting before 10 a.m. UK time, and I'm never gonna I'll wake up and just see how I feel. Do I feel energized and I really want to hit the ground running all morning, and then maybe do something more like socializing in the evening? Or am I tired and I just need to sleep a little bit more and there's less sunlight out there, so I want to have a longer lunch break and I'd rather work in the evening, and just manage my day in a way that's kinder to, or more actively listening how I'm doing that day. It's tough because even when it's using flexible time, it's tough to completely emancipate from the inherited, like, you need to be in front of your laptop 9 to 5, otherwise you're not really working, especially when you're remote. Like, there's more of a risk of people burning out than a risk of people over chilling in front of Netflix. And I'm definitely there's a risk of working too much team. So being mindful of that and having the freedom of using flexible hours also really helps reclaiming control of your time. when your space doesn't necessarily allow you to differentiate between different times of your day, like work and play and how they interact. And being vocal, to be fair, like again, it's been the most valuable thing I've done. Is the first lockdown particularly was, I had quite a tough time in the beginning. Once I set up all the people processes, and then I was like, whew, and released the pressure, and I was like, oh my God, what is going on? And I just told my manager, like I was just vulnerable. I said, look, I'm not feeling great. I need a hand. And I got the support that I needed, which was really good. And I'm conscious that I'm in a very progressive and caring environment, and I have the privilege of being able to, well, have the psychological safety to be vulnerable and reach out. But yeah, I did, and it's been really, really powerful and fostering trust as well, and being confident that it's okay to not be okay sometimes.
It sounds like, yeah, you've got some of the conditions in place to enable it. Yeah, I think that's probably really validating to hear for people, some of that advice. Thank you for, well, yeah, kind of advice and ideas for what people can do. On the flexible working, one of the things I thought of this week is, so how maybe you need to be inflexible to enable flexibility. And what I mean is, so if for some people they think, okay, flexible working means I can at lunchtime, where for half of the world that might be the only hours of daylight or that they might see is lunchtime. So to be flexible for some, it would be, okay, I'm going to take an extra hour, maybe 2 hours as an example, and go outside. But in order to have that flexibility for those colleagues, what happens if they get meetings put in? So actually you might need to put a rigid, or like, it depends how many exceptions you allow, but like in an inflexible policy or guide to say, to have flexibility, you must not book any meetings for other people between these hours. Yeah. And I know that there's like not one right or wrong, and there can be exceptions, but it's when the exceptions kind of build up, then it doesn't happen. So it's an example of one of those really complex challenges.
You're completely right. There needs to be a set of rules that people can sort of navigate within. And we're quite a small company, right? We're about 30 people. So there's no time zone complexity or very limited time zone complexity. So we are all, or most of us, on like around British time. And we have core hours. So everyone's like expected to be available online for meetings or on the instant messaging platform between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. besides the hour of lunch break. If you have a longer lunch break, like we encourage having Slack integrations of your Google Calendar for visibility. So if you're not answering people, it's just expectations management without the admin of it. If there's an integration and people see that you're somewhere in a meeting or at lunch, they're not going to expect you to answer immediately. And yeah, we have policies of no meetings before 10, no meetings after 5, so outside of the core hours, no meetings between 1 and 2. And then if you want to do something else, like, you know how your team operates, we're all grown-ups, we all know what we got to do in the day and who we need to work with and how much flexibility we can guesstimate we might need. So being like vocal and making it visible, the type of time that you need to block out is something that we expect from people as well. And then Zoom fatigue is a real thing. So on Wednesdays, we advise against internal meetings. So like if you're a customer success person, of course you're going to have calls. Like it's your job is to be in touch with admins and so on. But if you can cut down at least the internal sync calls for one day, it allows you to organize, to be again in control of your time. And you can decide whether you want that Wednesday to be a very busy day or actually I'm going to have 2 meetings instead of 5 type of day. So yeah,
sounds like a great environment that these conditions that you're creating. So impressive for you and your colleagues. As a final sign off, if people would like to follow up with you, connect with you, how could they do that?
They can add me on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. It's my favorite social media.
Great. We'll put a link to your profile under the video.
Yeah, sure. It's just my name.
Great. So with that, that draws us to the end of today's show. This is the end of our first week. We've learned so much from doing it. So Marie, I'm really appreciative for you to be part of it. It wouldn't be what it is without our special guests.
Well,
and we're back
so
next week. Oh, it's a pleasure. And we're back next week on Monday. Thank you very much. See ya.